Hello and welcome. My name is Chef Kelly Armetta and welcome to Cooking Made Simple. Today we're going to introduce you to some cooking techniques for summer grilling and some summer sides. The season's coming up right now and there's all kinds of great ideas to do. But if you don't know some simple techniques or have some good ideas to work with, and that's what I'm trying to show you today, it's being a little more difficult. But you know what? This is very exciting and we're working indoors today. I got my shades on. It is bright in here. But let's pretend we're outside having a fun time just grilling. So I'm going to take these off and we're going to get started. So, everybody likes to cook in their barbecue, in their backyard, and they grill or they barbecue. Well, what's the difference between grilling and barbecue? There is a big difference. When you think of barbecue, you go down south, they're talking about low smoke, slow smoking, right? And then really good rubs and things like that. And it takes a good amount of time to cook that food, right? A brisket. Love going down to Charlotte. I got friends in Charlotte. And we just go down for some great good old brisket and some really good ribs. But then we think about grilling, right? Grilling's a little different. You may get that at a restaurant, a grilled steak. You may cook or grill something on the outside in your backyard. Or maybe you're going to grill indoors. If you have a grill, in this case, we're going to have an electric grill, indoor smokeless grill. But there's a difference, right? A barbecue is going to be a little on the slower side and take your time and develop some flavors. And grill is going to be kind of a quick sear. You're going to season. But there is a difference. But we're not going to do any barbecue today. Okay? We're going to do more grilling. And I want to talk about some techniques and some little secrets that can help you along with the type of meat and some marinades and some rubs and things like that. Also with this class today, we're going to be talking about some salads. We got a couple of some summer salads and some sides. So the difference with sides is, right, you think about a vegetable salad, you think of a bean salad, right? And then, of course, you think about a potato salad. Those are the kind of three that come to mind, maybe a pasta salad as well. But we're going to do a variation of the first three I just mentioned. The vegetable salad, the potato salad, and the bean salad. And I'm really excited about showing this bean salad because what we're going to do with the bean salad is, if you think of baked beans, New England baked beans, right? Slow, really rich and deep, slow cooked, lots of flavors, that clove, that little nutmeg in there, tomato, maybe some maple syrup or molasses, right? Well, we're going to variate that into a summer side, right? We're going to make that more vinaigrette style. We're going to put some fresh vegetables in there. We're going to use maple vinegar. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm also going to work on a broccoli salad, something that I do at the hotel in my summer months. So it's a broccoli salad, and we're going to get started with this really quickly. But I would like to talk about a couple of quick things about the broccoli salad and some of the things that we have here today. So the whole premise of the show here is really cooking made simple, right? I want to make it really simple for you. So there's going to be techniques that you can make from scratch, right? We're going to make some ranch dressing from scratch. Or you could turn around and buy a ranch dressing that you like and then doctor it up. That's one example of making it simple. Same thing with the broccoli here. So the broccoli was the florets I got at the store in the bags. They come like that. I don't have to do any work. We do things like this in the hotel all the time. We don't process everything ourselves. But these are great little simple techniques that make your life easy. When you can also incorporate using the same pan and cooking things in the same pan a couple of times and not cleaning 3 pans, things like that. We talk about that all the time. But here, we're going to do something very simple. So let's get started with this one. So I'll tell you what we have. We have some oil, some white balsamic vinegar, some toasted almonds here. I got whole. You can use slice if you like. Some mustard, Dijon mustard, some great feta cheese. You see that? And I got a little bit of honey here. Some red onion and some lemon. And then we got the broccoli. So now, we got the broccoli florets. You can turn around and cut them yourself if you like. And if you get the ones with the stems, if you get the whole crowns, the whole broccoli, you can slice the stems and use them too. A lot of people just throw them away. But if you think of like a lot of Chinese cooking, they use those stems. That's a lot of good food there, right? So if you have the stems, you can certainly use them. All right, so I want to show you something here real quickly. We're going to boil this broccoli, okay? And I got a pot of boiling water on right now. Now, it's important to know this. This is really important, okay? So you've got salt that's going into boiling water. So we're putting salt in the water. And like when you cook pasta, right, it's really important to note that you salt the water, the salt dissolves, right? And the pasta or the broccoli or whatever vegetable you're working with absorbs that salted water, which flavors the inside. So you can't just turn around and put the broccoli in it and then put the salt on top. It's not going to work the same way. It has to be dissolved into the water, and then the broccoli or the vegetable or whatever you're working with absorbs that salted water. That's important because it flavors it through and through. So there's a difference between having a flavor on the outside and flavor on the inside. So in this case, the flavor will be on the inside. Okay, so going to get some ice water because we want to stop the cooking. As we call it in the cooking world, we're going to shock it, right? So as the broccoli cooks, we don't want to overcook it. So we're simply going to boil it for about 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then after it's boiled, we're going to put it in this ice water. And in this ice water, it will stop the cooking. And then we'll dress it and put everything together. Very simple. Not difficult at all. This is a really simple recipe. What I love about this is the crunch from the almonds, the saltiness from the feta cheese, and a little sweetness from the dressing. The dressing has honey and white balsamic vinegar, which is a little on the sweet side, right? So you have the sweetness, you got the saltiness, and you got the nice crunchiness as well. All right, so the water's boiling. We're going to put these broccoli florets in here. Okay, if you get a big one, just break them. So the reason why you want to break it is just so they cook a little more evenly. So we're going to put the broccoli in here. Now notice I'm all dressed for my summer barbecue outside. So my grilling and enjoying the summer months. So we're going to put this in here. That's good there. Okay. Now, remember I told you about we want to turn around and use the same bowl multiple times so we don't have to make a mess, right, and have more things to clean? Well, that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to make the dressing right inside here while we are waiting for the broccoli to come up. Really simple. This is not difficult at all. We put on nice olive oil. You can use extra virgin olive oil if you like. I like something a little more on the neutral side, so a little light olive oil is great. I don't want to overpower it. We got some white balsamic vinegar. The recipes are all online. You can take a look at it when you go into the website of Revere TV. You'll see those. But what's important to note is that you can measure things out, and they all measured. Everything's all measured out. But we're cooking from here, right? We're cooking from our heart. This is simple stuff. Doesn't have to be overcomplicated, right? I'm trying to work with cooking made simple. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to make it so complicated. Now, I will tell you, as chefs, we're always saying, oh, it's easy. Oh, it's something simple. Yeah, we don't make it always easy. We don't always make it simple. So I got some mustard in here. I got the honey I just put in, right? We got the oil. We have the vinegar, okay? This is going to be our dressing for our salad, our broccoli, right? We'll come back to that one. We'll see if we need a little bit more. We're going to add a little bit more acid in here. So in this case, we'll put the lemon in here, right? Now, this particular broccoli salad is, if you dress it the day before, I am worried that the broccoli will turn a little bit of color because of the acid and break down the broccoli, and the color will change. So you can cook the broccoli the day before, chill it, and then you can toss everything together, okay? So what we're doing right here, we have the broccoli being cooked, right? Let that come up. Leave that guy right here. All right, so we have our dressing here, almost done. We'll taste it in a second. We're going to add a little bit of some fresh pepper. Now, you can put a little bit more coarse pepper, something that has a little more bite to it if you like. So you have a little bit of crunch, a little bit of a pop in your mouth. Certainly do that if you like. A little bit of salt. Now, be careful with the salt because we got the saltiness from the feta cheese. So know your ingredients. That's important, right? And we're going to take a little bit of red onion here. So our broccoli is probably close to being done. Now, here's the thing about when you cook vegetables. It's okay to be underdone, right? You can eat raw vegetables, right? You can eat vegetables that are undercooked. It's not going to hurt you, right? Crudité vegetables, right? Cruda, raw. You don't have to worry about it. Oh my God, they're underdone. What am I going to do? It's okay to be crunchy. This is a little fat. I don't want it too crunchy where you're breaking your teeth. But it's still going to carry over cooking. Although we're going to put in some ice water, we're going to shock it, as we said, right? It's still going to carry over cooking. So maybe I'll just start taking out some of the smaller pieces. All right. Now, if you were doing this the day before, you would cook it to this point, you would drain them, you would keep them cold, and then the next day you would dress it with all the stuff you need to do. But it's so simple. I don't really think you have to do it the day before. I think it's something that you can do the morning of, have it ready to go, and then go ahead and enjoy it at that point. All right, so we have our broccoli coming off. We're going to take this out. And that's as simple as this is. Watch, you'll see. This is so simple, so good, so flavorful. A nice vegetable salad. Could you do this with cauliflower? Absolutely. Why not? You could do a combination of the two. If you get Romanesco cauliflower, which is like that purplish type top, those are fun, right? And those are great. They have a nice little texture to them. So you could do that. All right, so we have this over here. This is cooling. We'll come back to this in 1 second. Let it cool for a minute. And we're just going to test this guy here and see if it needs anything. I can see that the honey didn't come quite off. There we go. And I got a little bit of mustard, right? The mustard in here is important. Not even using a whisk. It's so simple. You don't have to do too much with this. All right, let's taste it. Let's see how it's doing. All right, we're going to put a little more lemon. Okay, and this guy is just about ready to go. Letting that cool. And while it's cooling, we'll go ahead and finish up what we need here. All right, so we got some onion. Onion's optional. If you don't like onions, don't use onions. If you want to use scallions, use scallions. But it's nice and green, and I think the red looks nice with it. It's kind of a fun, pretty salad. All right, so nice and thin. So we got that right there. We have our almonds that are toasted. Now, we talked about the almonds. They're nice and toasted and just whole. They have a nice little bite to them. They're really good just the way they are. If you want to get Marcona almonds, which are like a little more high-end, they are wonderful. Once you eat a Marcona almond from Spain, it's hard to go back. They're so good, but they're probably triple the amount of money. You can find them in a lot of great stores that have some unique stuff. All right, so we got this nice feta cheese here. A nice salty, hard feta. I don't want to over toss it when I'm ready to mix the salad. I don't want this to break, to be mushy. But if you do, it's okay. It's not going to really hurt it. It's going to be just as good. But I like more of I like the look of it when I can turn around and see it nice and chunky and hold its shape. All right, so we have all these ingredients right here. All right, so I'm going to go and drain this broccoli, okay? Yeah, it's cool enough. It's not ice cold for what I'm doing right now, but for the purpose of what we're doing today, you get the point of it. All right. So simply just drain it out. Okay, so we have our dressing. And I'm going to move the mustard. We don't need that anymore. I think we're good on the mustard. You could certainly put more mustard in it if you're someone that likes that little bit of that sharpness to it. You could certainly do that. All right, I got this. Get the water out of here. Now it's important that you get the water out because the little florets will keep them, and it would dilute your dressing. So we don't want that to happen. Right now, one thing about dressings, when you taste it like I did on the spoon, it's a little more pronounced on your mouth because you're getting a whole bunch of it. Now, if you turn around and dress something, suddenly it's diluted, it's kind of coating. So it's not as intense. So you lose a little bit. So sometimes you want to put a little bit more seasoning in your dressing or your mix that you're putting, because tasting something with a spoon or on your finger is going to be very different than tasting something just mixed in with the items. Okay, so we have our dressing here. So far, so good. Simple, right? We haven't done anything earth-shattering. We're going to put our nice red onion here. It's going to be nice and pretty. Nice color to it. These almonds. Right, now put a little bit of the cheese here, and then you're going to sprinkle some on top. Pretty simple so far, right? We haven't done anything that's really difficult to do. Toss it around, and you have a really, really nice, simple broccoli salad that you can use for your first side of your summer barbecue. Your grilling tips and summer sides, as I said today. So, now, let this sit usually for about 35, 40 minutes or so. That way the flavors come through. And I think I just want to taste it. Good. Perfect. All right, first thing, a little festiveness with the plate here. Now, some of the things we like to do as a chef is a little off-center, not so perfect on top. And then these little extra pieces here. And that's it. That's salad number one. Simple. Beautiful, simple salad. Okay. So now we're going to move on to our second salad. So I'm just going to wipe this up for a second. Give me 1 second here, and we'll get started again. So our second salad's actually really simple, and I really like this one. We're going to be doing a potato salad, but what we're going to do with the potato salad is we're going to use a couple of unique ingredients. One, smoked paprika, not so unique in the sense that you can't find it, but in your potato salad, kind of gives you a nice little flavor to it. Okay? Move this out of the way. So we got our potato salad, right? We have potatoes. We have our sour cream, some mayonnaise, some buttermilk, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. All right, if you're in Worcester, you may say Worcestershire sauce. Onion, garlic powder. We're going to use a little bit of fresh chives here. What we're going to make? We're going to make a fresh ranch dressing. That's what that is. And then the most unique part about this whole thing is I'm doing a little bit of mesquite powder. It's a little more difficult to get this mesquite powder. Okay, you get a close-up of this, you'll see that it has a nice warm flavor, almost sweet to it. If you can't find the mesquite powder online or a special store, you can use the mesquite barbecue mix, which will give you the same smoky flavor, but it'll have other flavors in that. Not going to hurt it, it's going to be great. But what I'm trying to make here is a smoked potato salad without actually smoking anything, right? So you can do a little bit of liquid smoke if you like. I'm not a big fan of liquid smoke because I don't like that fake flavor that it provides, but there's a use for it at times. So now we're going to make a quick ranch dressing. Really simple. So ranch dressing, you're welcome to make this ranch dressing. I provided a recipe online. You can see it there if you like. This dill is optional if you have dry dill, a little more intense. I don't have dry dill here today, but you can put it in there if you like to give it a little more of that flavor. Or you could buy a great ranch dressing that you like and then doctor it up. And I will tell you, there's a lot of things that we do at the hotel. Sometimes we just can't make everything from scratch. So we'll doctor things up. We'll do that often, right? It kind of enhances stuff. It becomes really a nice trick to do things with. So we got our smoked mesquite powder, and then we have our smoked paprika. That's what it's going to give us our unique flavor to it. All right, so let's go ahead and make our little ranch dressing. So we got some sour cream. Mayonnaise is going to give you some body. Sour cream is going to give you a little tang to it. And then buttermilk is going to give you some more tang to it. All right. Then we're going to add some of the main ingredients that you typically get inside your ranch dressing. So this is garlic powder, onion powder, and then we're going to put the fresh chives in here. And of course, salt and pepper as always. And then we're going to add our two smokiness things here that we have, right? So we have our chives in here. Okay. And then a little dash of the Worcestershire sauce. You don't need too much of it, just a little bit. We'll mix this guy. We'll see if we have to adjust it. Simple. Now, you say summer sides and we got potato salad sitting out. Oh my God, I'm worried about it. You know, people getting sick from it. And it's definitely a concern for sure. But I will tell you, it's not from the mayonnaise. And it's not from the sour cream. People get sick from the potatoes because they're high in starch and they're wet and moist. So the mayonnaise as a base here has a preservative in it, protects it a little bit. It may get a little dry, it may not look so appetizing, so if you let it sit out. So really it's worried about the potato that you have to worry about. Either way, you should worry about it. But it's trying to let you know where the problem, where it kind of lies from. It's not necessarily from the mayonnaise. Okay, so let's see how this is. A little bit more of everything. A little more onion. A little more garlic. It's actually tasting pretty good already. And I think definitely a little bit more salt. Okay. Remember, this is going to coat potatoes. And potatoes are bland, right? So you need to kind of help them along. Now, this is where we get our nice spices in here. So we're going to put a little of this mesquite powder. Okay. And you're going to put a little bit of smoked paprika. Okay. And this is really going to put everything together really nice. A little bit more of a dressing-y type feel to it. Okay. And a splash of vinegar, whatever you have around. I happen to have a little bit of maple vinegar right here. I'm just going to put some in just to give it a little zing to it. You don't need much of it. So if you have some white vinegar or red vinegar, just a splash to it. All right. So it has a nice consistency. It's thin enough to coat everything. All right. Wow, that smokiness is coming out already. All right, so let's talk about our potatoes here. So I got some nice little new potatoes, they're called. And the reason why they're called new potatoes is because they are a new style, new crop, very young. Not because they're new to the market, but they're this new because they're young. Now, I pre-boiled these for today, and I cut them already. Now, if you notice, I cooked them whole. It's called cooking in their jackets. So we're cooking them in their jackets. And what happens is when you cook a potato in their jackets, they hold the starch content better. So it's important to hold the starch content better. And that way they don't break down and they get mushy. So we cook them in their jackets. And sometimes if you're making a great baked potato or a mashed potato, you would cook them in jackets and peel them. In this case, I'm not going to peel them, right? The skin is fine. But if you get the nice, sometimes you can get the white gold ones, you can get the triple colored ones. Those are all fun to get. All right, so now we have our potatoes cut. We have our dressing in here, right? All right, let's move this guy out of the way. And mix it around. And then we'll double check to make sure that the flavor and the salt is good and make sure it tastes good. See, it just coats it really nice. You don't have to really do too much to it, and the flavor gets absorbed a little bit. Now, if you want to make it a little more zingy, you want to kind of play with some other techniques, like when you make a German potato salad, you may put it, as you boil them and take them out, you hit a little vinegar on them. When they're hot, they'll absorb it a little bit better. Okay, so far so good. Really simple stuff, right? Two things, some great little sides. This has a nice flavor. It got a nice color from the mesquite powder, all right? And then we'll just go ahead and top it with a little bit of our spices and our scallions, or excuse me, our chives. Okay. And that will be salad number 2. So we'll put a little bit of the paprika on top, smoked paprika. Hit it with a little bit of black pepper. And then we'll come right back to the chives here. And now, because I want this to be a little bit prettier, I have this, I'm cutting this on slight bias, maybe a kind of big pieces so they'll hold up a little bit better. And there's our smoked potato salad. The next one I want to show you, and I'm really excited about this one because we talked about earlier, you typically think of your baked beans being heavy and rich and flavorful and cooking for a long period of time. Well, what we're going to do here today is kind of throw that out the window and make a salad that's really simple, of a baked bean inspired, right? Something that kind of comes together and it kind of gives you that same flavor profile. I like to do that. I like to take your winter flavors and change them into the summer, and your summer flavors and change them into the winter. And you get that little, little feeling of summer's coming around or winter's almost here, things like that, right? So let's talk about what we have on this particular one. So what do you typically make baked beans with? Pinto beans. Just to change it up a little bit, I add a little bit of black-eyed peas. You can certainly do other things as well, right? You could use black beans if you want, but to kind of really work with it, it won't be the same. You can inspire something else with it. But this here, we got some maple vinegar. We got some cooked bacon. We'll talk about the bacon in a second. Some olive oil, a little bit of maple syrup, and some Pomeranian mustard or stone ground mustard. You see it had the little seeds in it? Okay. So what's your typical stuff that you put inside your baked beans, right? You have most of these items right here, right? The vinegar is something that's different. And then we're going to put a little bit of red onion, tomato, and some red pepper, and a little bit of scallion. So this is going to be the stuff that's going to be inside the salad. Okay, so if you like, you can make you can soak the beans and gently cook them. It's a lot of work. What's the premise of the show? Cook and made simple. Buy them, wash them, drain them, wash them, right? Mix them up. Be careful with your salt content because these have a little more salt in it. So you have your 2 little beans here. And then we're going to make our dressing on the side. So you notice so far everything I'm doing, I do the dressing on the side. And there's a reason for that because I can taste it. I can mix it nice. I can incorporate the flavor. I can taste it if I have to adjust it. When you put them on top here, you don't want this. You could do it fast that way, but I think that it doesn't coat it the same way. So I always like to make the dressings a little bit on the side and then toss them inside there as well. Because then the salt dissolves a little bit better. You have a better flavor. You control it a little bit. Okay. So again, a very simple salad of things that that maybe you have in your cupboard, or you just got to get a couple of things put together. So we have some green onion. On the side of ways you can see better. So you have a green onion. We have a red onion. Now, what's the difference between the two? Well, the green onion is a little bit more refined, a little finer in flavor, a little finer in its texture. The red onion is a little more assertive, a little sweeter, okay? And I think there's a good combination between the two. Sometimes I like to put one over the other. For an example, if I make tuna fish, I prefer to have scallions or green onions in there because it doesn't overpower the tuna fish, and I don't want that large chunky onions. In this case, I don't mind this, doesn't bother me. So I got a couple of tomatoes right here. I don't need too much of it. So I'm just going to take these tomatoes and just lightly chop them up. So really simple, put together salad that doesn't have to take a lot of work. Now, what happens if you don't have green onion or maple vinegar or tomatoes? Can't make the salad, right? No, of course not. It's okay. You can work without it. Again, this is cooking made simple. You don't necessarily have to worry about following everything to the T. The idea of what I'm trying to show you is that there's other ways of doing things, and don't feel stuck that you have to follow the recipe 100%. Put your own creativity to it. All right, so we got our tomato, we have our red onion, we have our green onion. I'm going to put a bit of red pepper. I don't want to overpower with red pepper because sometimes that happens a lot. So when you put anything with peppers, it tends to overpower a little bit. So go light. A little bit goes a long way. So if you cut it from the inside as opposed to the outside, they actually cut a little easier. So when you cut over here, it doesn't get through. You have to make sure your knife is really sharp, but still, this one goes a lot easier. All right, so we don't need too much of the pepper because I don't want to overpower it, but I want a nice crunch, nice fresh taste to it. So do you put peppers in baked beans? No, not necessarily. You don't. But we are making this into a salad. We're just kind of having our own interpretation. All right, so we have our red onions, green onions, scallions, right? Tomato, a red pepper. Okay, now let's talk about bacon. So right here I have some maple smoked bacon. Add to the flavor of it, right? Maple, kind of that, or molasses, right? That's what you typically have in baked beans. I pre-cook these. If you had a breakfast on a Sunday and you cook a little extra and you save your bacon, it's good for a few days, you chop them up and put them in there. If you want to do turkey bacon, absolutely. You want to omit the bacon, you can do that too. What's nice about the bacon, it gives you nice smokiness to it. So I put this in here kind of the last minute. I'm not going to do it too early because I don't want it to get soggy, right? So we want to be careful with that. All right, so now we have we're going to make our little dressing here. So we have our oil, our maple vinegar. Now, if you don't have maple vinegar, don't worry about it. I picked up the maple vinegar a couple of years ago at this great little farmer's market, so I use it often, but don't feel like you have to have it. So what I do want to suggest is a little maple syrup. So we got some maple syrup to give you that sweetness to it, or molasses. So let's just say you don't have maple syrup, but you got molasses and you don't have maple vinegar. What you're trying to accomplish is make a dressing with that sweetness to it, right? And then you want to kind of keep with the integrity of the baked beans concept to it. A little mustard. So when you make baked beans, right, you put mustard, tomato paste, you put some maple syrup or molasses, as you mentioned, fresh tomatoes, and you cook it really slow, right? Really in the oven for a few hours. Well, that's what we're doing here, but instead of cooking it and having all those heavy flavors, we are going to put these little lighter flavors, okay? So we'll put some pepper in here. I mentioned to you that I like to put the salt in the dressing because it dissolves a little bit better. So we'll put some salt in here. But I'm also going to be careful because I got salty bacon and I got salty beans. They've been packed with salt, so you got to be careful with that. All right, so we got this simple dressing. Right now, nothing is really difficult to do, right? Yummy. So put the dressing in here, and we'll mix this guy up. And this is ready to go. All right, so you got a nice, vibrant, fun baked bean salad with the pinto beans, the black-eyed peas, some crunchy maple bacon, right? Very simple bean salad, but reminiscent of a baked bean that you would get in the winter. So let's see how this guy tastes here. Okay, I'm going to put a little more pepper. And I'm going to put a little bit more mustard. And a spink more of the vinegar. And I think we're good to go. Now, this can definitely be made the day before, and I think it would be even better, except for the bacon. Make sure the bacon stays out until we're about to serve it so it doesn't get soggy, okay? All right, so our baked bean salad. All right, so now you had the salads ready to go, and they're marinating, they're sitting, they're ready, they're good to go. Now we're going to start working on some meats and some protein, some fish. So I got a couple of fun things to do here. Now, the really important thing about this is some of these marinades have to last for a little bit of time, right? 6, 4, 5 hours. Some just go quickly. So we're going to start off with a really simple one that I'm really excited about. It can actually be your cocktail to start off your barbecue or your event for you're doing, right? We're going to work with some Barramundi here, and we're going to put them on some skewers, and we're going to marinate them, and then we're going to make a fun cocktail and kind of take a little bit of a twist on a few different things here. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the little cocktail. Before I cut the fish, I want to start making the gazpacho. So what we're going to do is make a gazpacho, but if you're familiar with a gazpacho, it's a tomato cucumber cold soup from Spain, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a version of that, but I'm going to use a Bloody Mary mix as a base to it, because this has a lot of great flavor, right? And it has a lot of spice to it. So if you get the spicy one, it's really good. And then we're going to season up the barramundi with a little chili, lime, and some other flavors, and grill them right on top of with some skewers. So we got some garlic over here, real quick. And let me just move this out of the way so you can see better. We got some garlic. We're going to put some other spices with the cucumbers, and we're going to make this little marinade, this little dressing, right, as you will. And go from there. So let's just get this out of the way here. We don't want to make it too garlicky. Now, here's the thing. Use your Bloody Mary mix, the one that you like, and then you can dock it up any one you want. You want to put a little vodka in there? Great. I prefer to do a little bit of a spike to it, okay? But you don't want to do too much of it, of the garlic in it, because you don't want to overdo the flavor profile. All right, so we're going to put this right in here. And we're going to use this in 2 applications. So we're going to put this one to the side. We'll have some for the fish as well, right? We're going to go ahead and take our Bloody Mary mix, nice and spicy, shake it up so there's good flavors to it. It gets all mixed around. Don't get it on your clothes. My wife will kill me if I get this on the shirt, especially if you're entertaining and you got people coming over and you get all dirty, so be careful with that. I've had that happen a few times. So we have a nice thickness. See how nice and thick that is? It gives a little body. So put that aside for a second. Now we're going to put a little bit of oil in here, right? We're going to put a little bit of red vinegar. These are the things you typically would have inside your gazpacho. We're going to notice we put the garlic earlier in that one. Now we're going to put a little bit of cucumber, which is a main ingredient in this dish. And instead of, making it, we're gonna kind of marinate a little bit, but the Bloody Mary mix is gonna give it a really good flavor, because that has all a bunch of good flavors in that as well. And if it's a little vodka to it, the vodka will give a little zip to it. So after you eat it, you suck them down and you feel really good, right? Nice in the summertime, nice brunch option, okay? And what's cool is that if you do it with something like barramundi or shrimp, something that kind of grills up really nice and gives you a nice flavor to it, and enhances the whole beverage concept, takes it to another level. All right, so we got our cucumber. Now this you can do the day before. Actually, in some cases I prefer it the day before, so the flavors kind of sit and transfer in. So that's really good for this. All right, so we got our vinegar. We have a little bit of oil. Okay, we're going to add some lime juice. We're going to add lime juice in 2 applications, one inside here, okay, and one on the fish. We'll come back to the fish in a second. All right, now we're going to add some tomato and a little bit of pepper to it and a little bit of red onion. You don't need to do too much. A little bit of fresh cilantro. in here, liven this whole thing up. I made this recently for a client where I was introduced to Barramundi, and we turned around and just grilled off these little pieces, and this made this nice little gazpacho made with the Bloody Mary as a base. So now your Bloody Mary has a lot of good flavors to it already, so you don't really have to overdo this one completely. So we'll put this stuff in here. So it's all optional what you got in here. So we're going to put a little bit of green onion as well. 1 or 2 pieces, kind of sliver it up. Remember I told you it's made simple. So we have a base already made with the Bloody Mary mix as we talked about. We have, so now I don't have to worry about getting tomato juice and crushing tomatoes, things like that. This is going to be nice and flavorful, and it's going to do really well. We're going to put a little tomato so we have a little bit of body. This is the tomato I used earlier, so I don't need too much of it. Okay. What tomatoes you use? Well, you have an option. You can use plum tomatoes, kind of hold up and they're a little bit, have a little more texture to them, which is really nice. But I also got a, you could put some yellow tomatoes in here if you want. And okay, so this is pretty good just the way it is. We're going to double check it. Now, we've got to be careful with the seasoning. If you look in here, it's nice and chunky, right? Perfect. A little olive oil on that. This little sits a little bit. Okay, you want to put a little bit of spice to it. I got some cumin. I got some coriander. I got a little bit of chili powder, just to give it a little bit of zing to it. You know, it's just kind of going with the flow and make it taste really good. Let that sit a little bit. So we'll come back to this guy, okay, and we'll let him sit a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to get our fish ready. So we have our nice pieces. We have a nice barramundi here, right? We talked about barramundi before, but if you don't remember, you can get this particular piece is Australis barramundi, a product I represent. Does really well, cooks up really well, tastes great. It's really versatile. You can get these at BJ's. They sell them already portioned. This is a kind of a bigger fillet here, but usually have a little bit smaller. And we're going to cut these into little strips so we can put them on a skewer, and then we'll grill them up a little bit later. Okay? So you have these pieces here. Now, very simply. Now, this one is one of those things you don't want to marinate a long time. We talked about earlier where you marinate things for a short window, a long window. This one you don't want to marinate too long because of the lime will start to ceviche the fish. You can certainly eat it like that, but then if it ceviches the fish, it starts to make it a little bit tough, and if you're cooking it. So from a short window, we don't necessarily need to have this sit in a long time because we're going to serve it right away, right? But if I was going to do a ceviche and serve it raw, a little bit of lime, you let it sit for a little bit. And more often than not, you don't have to even sit it a long time with that. It's just enough to ceviche it. Now you've got this little blood vein in here. It's certainly edible. It's actually good. It gives it a little richer flavor. Okay, so I got these pieces here. Got these nice little skewers. This is not going to take a long time to cook, so you don't have to feel like you have to soak the skewers. Don't have to do that. So now we're going to simply just kind of season it. Got the lime here. Okay, we're going to put some garlic on this here. Right. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil. So you want a little bit because you don't want it to dry out. We're going to mix that out in a second. Some chili. Right. We got some onion powder, garlic powder, excuse me. A little garlic powder here. Okay, now I got a little coriander. I like coriander, gives it a nice warm flavor, right? Kind of puts this whole profile together. Now, we got some nice cilantro right from the garden. I took these pots right from my garden, bring them over. I got some cilantro, some parsley, some chives. You saw me do the chives earlier. So this one, we're going to let this sit for a few minutes. I could smell it. It's really, really strong. Smells great. You don't need to put too much of it. I'm just letting it get nice in my hands here, kind of rubbing it around. This does not need a long time to cook. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of pepper. And we're going to put a little bit of salt. Okay. Now, this one is going to sit for a few minutes. We'll come back to this one in a second. And I do want to get the marinade for the beef going because that's going to take a little time. So, I am going to make you a chimichurri beef, a little flank steak, right? Chimichurri, right? It comes from South America, particularly Argentina. They do a great job of having a chimichurri recipe they use. I use three different types of recipes for chimichurri. I have one that's a green kind of wet marinade, which we're going to make here today. I have one as a red topping. What I mean by red topping is tomato, a little pepper. It's more of a topping, like a put on top of steak tips or something like that. I'm not doing this one today. And then I have a dry one that I developed my own recipe for. And this dry one is great. I keep it in my cupboard. I take it out. I add some vinegar. I add some oil. Add some water. Let it sit a couple minutes. It reconstitutes and it goes over vegetables, fish, chicken, steak, whatever you want. I'm not doing that one today either. I'm going to use the green one. So while we have this fish kind of marinating a little bit, and we have our grill going here, let's talk a little bit about the beef here. It's a little flank steak. Typically, they would use maybe a hanger steak or something like that. This flank steak here, I already kind of split it. Now, we do want to talk about when we cut this. If you look closely to this here, I'll do it from this one. I think you can see it better. You see these lines going in this direction. So we're going to cook it with these lines here. And then when it's done, we're going to slice against it. So it breaks down the fiber. And that's important because you want to keep it, you don't want it to be tough, right? So we have this meat here. I filleted it up a little bit, butterflied as we say, and put that here. So let's make this marinate, this green chimichurri. In the hotel, I would use a red, a dry, and a green. So we're going to use this Cuisinart and simply we're going to take some parsley, some cilantro. We're going to put it right in here. Now, they've already been pre-washed, so they're all good. Don't worry about that. I washed my stuff, right? We're going to add some cumin to this, right? A couple of garlic cloves. What I like about this recipe is that I don't have to do a lot of chopping. Put it right inside. Recipe calls for 3, I like a little extra garlic in here. Some red pepper flakes. We let it sit. Now, the thing about chimichurri, what makes chimichurri unique is the vinegar itself kind of marinates. So that's what you really want to watch out with. When you put it too long in the marinade, it may kind of denature the protein and make the meat a little bit kind of weird texture. So when you marinate this meat, you know, I don't like to go much more than 8 hours on it. So it's not something you would do maybe at night before if you're going to serve it at lunchtime the next day, okay? Or you're going to serve it at night, do it in the morning. It's certainly not going to hurt. Also depends on how thick the meat is. Keep that in mind. The protein will make a difference. All right, so we got some vinegar. We got our oil. Right? We'll put some salt in here. I don't want to deal with doing it this way. I'd rather do it this way so I can control what's in it. There we go. Save that. All right. So this is a very simple green chimichurri. Okay. Now we're just going to pulse this guy. So remember, we're going to allow this to kind of sit for a few minutes on this meat, maybe up to 8 hours max. Pureed so it's nice and smooth. We'll see what this looks like in terms of flavor profile, right? We got cumin, salt, olive oil, parsley, cilantro inside here. All right, look at that, nice and smooth, almost like a pesto, right? All right, so this is good just the way it is. If you look at it closely, it's still chunky. Kind of looks like a pesto, but it's not. So this is my green chimichurri that I use. So I had a friend of mine from Argentina work at the hotel, and we were talking about this recipe a long time ago. So he came back from visiting his parents, and he had recipe for the green. And I go, you know, I've seen it before, but I like his recipe. I get influence from everyone, even his coworkers. As a matter of fact, he wasn't a chef. But it's great to be able to be influenced by everybody, and everyone can be a part of something, and everyone has a great recipe. So as a chef, you always grow, and even someone who's not a chef, you can learn from. All right, so we have this green chimichurri. We're going to marinate the meat in here, okay? The vinegar will denature it, so we don't want to do it too long. Okay, you want to get it all around. And this is a great flavor. The garlic is nice and pronounced. I could smell it right now. It smells great. We're going to grill it later. This is a smokeless grill. We're going to let this sit. Let's just pretend we let this sit for, you know, a couple hours, right? We'll come back to that. All right, so we have our barramundi marinating. We have our steak marinating. Okay, so one thing I want to do is get the corn going, okay? Because I want to talk about a Mexican street corn. So I have the water going over here. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. And I want to pre-cook this corn a little bit. So if I was going to grill this outside, which we're going to do in a minute, I want to have this corn already pre-cooked because it would kind of cook a little bit more evenly. All right, so that's fine over here. Let that guy go. Let the corn just kind of come to a boil just for a few minutes. Now, here's the thing about the corn that we talked about with the same thing with the broccoli. It could be underdone. Raw corn is great, sweet. So you don't really need to cook too much of it. The older it gets, the starch develops more and it loses sweetness. So we want to cook for a couple of minutes, take it off, we'll cool it, we'll grill them, we'll season them, it'll be beautiful. We'll come back to that one in a minute. All right, so we have these two marinating here. Now I want to introduce you to, let me move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, okay? This is my friend, Hillside Harvest. Kamal is the owner of it. He's just a great guy, and he does a phenomenal job with putting together these hot sauces from Jamaica. He's Jamaican. He's not a chef, and I'm jealous a little bit that he came up with this, but it's fantastic, and I love it that he's come up with these great flavors. And he introduced me to his Jamaican jerk spice, right? And you can go to his website, Hillside Harvest. It's really great. He's got a hot one, a mild one. He's got these other flavors of hot sauces. They're all great. I use them at the hotel. But what's really important to note is that the premise of the show is Cook and Made Simple, right? I have a recipe available for you guys to utilize if you want to go online and check it out. And what I learned from him is to put a little bit of pineapple. He puts pineapple on one of his. So I use a little bit of pineapple in my own jerk spice. I had another gentleman that worked for me, Ricky, which one of these days you're going to meet. He was my executive sous chef. He was from Jamaica. And he gave me a great recipe for Jamaican spices, a Jamaican jerk. But I put a little pineapple on it. So I have that in a recipe available if you want to make it from scratch. But in the case here, okay, we got this great marinade, okay, of this Jamaican spice, the jerk spice, with the great flavors to it, okay? And I'm going to marinate some chicken in it. Now, here's with the chicken. I got the chicken thighs with the skin on, boneless. So sometimes you can't find them boneless. You can certainly cook it with the bone if you like. But if you could take the bone out, or the butcher does it without the bone, it's great. Marinating this one. Now, this is one I like to let it sit for a little bit. I can smell the clove in that. I can smell all that flavor profile, right, that's in here. There's so many recipes for Jamaican jerk spice. Dry, wet rubs, some with cloves, some with a lot of ginger in it. It's really a personal preference or recipes, right? It's just like curries and Italian spices. It's all your own blends. All right, so this is going to marinate over here. So now we got 3 things marinating. Now, here's what I want to introduce you to. When you marinate these chicken, these beefs and things like that, okay? I think I had it over here and where it went. But you want to just marinate them and put them in a Ziploc bag. I'll have it available. I thought it was there, but something was in it. But you put them in a Ziploc bag, and what happens is they press the air out. They kind of press them a little bit, and the kind of marinade sits in there. In the case of the barramundi, we don't need to marinate that long. And the steak, we can marinate it for 8 hours like that. And the chicken will actually do really well overnight. So you got your chicken, you got your steak, and you got your barramundi. All right, we got the corn boiling here, coming up in a minute, okay? Notice I put my hands in the hot water. It's not that bad, okay? Chefs, we always touch those things. And a lot of times what we do with chefs, we go over and we say, oh, you got salt in that water? And the chef and the cook says, yeah, I do. And you go, I don't know, I don't taste it. Meanwhile, you just touched it and you touched hot boiling water, and they look at you like, how'd you touch the hot water? So don't lie to a chef. That's the secret there to that one. All right. So now we got a lot of things happening here. So we're gonna make the barramundi first, nice and hot, right? Nice and hot. We're gonna sear these guys up a little bit. So if you watch one of my other cooking shows we did, when we did What's Cooking with Revere, I did these I grilled them here. And what's really nice about this grill, it's a smokeless grill, $50, you get it at Macy's. Really nice to work with in your house in the wintertime. It's great for what we're doing today, right? You don't have to worry about smoking up everything. So when you grill something, what happens when you grill? The heat is from the bottom. It sears that cast iron. The cast iron gets real hot. And then that, in turn, sears the protein that you're working with. And when you sear that protein, the natural sugars in the blood inside the protein start to caramelize. That gives you that deep richness that you're looking for. Okay? So we got our Gazpacho Bloody Mary marinating for a little bit. See how this tastes. Yummy. Unlike the little Bloody Mary mix. So I opted not to put any vodka in this one, but you certainly can. And then you can just float a little vodka on top. Whatever vodka, a little Tito's or whatever brand you like, put that little one on top. So this is kind of fun, just the way it is, right? And I'm trying to be careful not to get dirty. All right. So our fish is cooking here. So these are getting nice and hot in the middle here. This is not hot enough yet. I'm going to crank this up a little higher. I want to get a nice sear on those. And you have a fun little cocktail as an appetizer. Bloody Mary Gazpacho with chili lime barramundi skewers put on top. And that's perfect the way that is. That's cooking really good. We'll get that nice and hot. In the meantime, we got our corn here. Bring this up a little bit longer. So we're making a Mexican street corn. I know we got a couple things going on here, but I want to tell you what's happening with that. We'll do that next. We have our chicken. We have our beef, right? We're going to come back to the beef. And while we're here, let's talk about the beef real quickly. What I want to do with the beef is, let me put this on the side so you can see a little bit better. Excuse me. I'm going to grill some peaches or nectarines. I like that with the beef because it gives you a nice little sweetness to work with that assertive vinegary style of the marinade, right? We don't need to do a heavy sauce with this. So I'll just do it this way. Take this. Okay, so while we're waiting, we'll put this barramundi off to the side, give us some room. This barramundi is kind of in the way there, so we're going to grill these peaches in the meantime. You can use nectarines. You want the peaches to be a little bit firm. And the reason why you want them to be firm is so they don't turn to mush on the platter. All right, so when we get the platters going over here. All right, so our corn is doing really well. It's basically done. I'm not going to worry about the corn being cooked all the way. We'll come back to that and we'll grill them in a second. I'm just putting them out of the way. You can do this early in the day. You can do this the day before. So then when you go to cook them, they're a little bit more consistent. All right? So we have our corn here. They're going to carry over a little bit. I'm not going to shock them like we did with the broccoli, so don't worry about that. So they'll carry over a little bit. And as I said to you, it's okay if they're not cooked all the way. All right? So that's the color I'm looking for. Beautiful. Nice. So if you're cooking this outside in the grill, you don't have to cook on a high temperature too much or too high. Some cases you want to kind of be low and slow. Some cases you want to get a medium heat. Nice medium heat, get a nice little richness to this, okay? A little bit underdone, a little bit longer, this little fat piece here, this little piece here. What's nice about this barramundi, it's such a great eating fish, such a healthy and really handled really well when we process it. That's very safe, so it's a little bit underdone, it's okay. You can do ceviche with it, you could do it as a cruda or a sashimi type style with it. So if you have it a little underdone, particularly because it comes out of the freezer, you take it, you slack it, an hour or so, 2 hours later, it's done. It's very fresh. It's processed in a very fast way, so it doesn't sit for a long time on a boat like sometimes a fresh fish would be. All right, so this particular one here is a little bit underdone. We're almost done with that. In the meantime, we'll see how our peaches are doing. So remember I talked about caramelization? That's the sugars in the peaches, right? It says, look at the caramelization. That's the natural sugars in the peaches that are just going to caramelize. And that's when you get that nice richness to it. All right, this is going to go on top of the beef a little bit later, so we'll take these off and put them aside. So this one here is done. So we're going to put this one side here. This one's done. Put this one aside there. We're going to odd one out. We got 2 on one, and we'll put 3 on the other. A little bit underdone. So what's fun about this is that you dip it in there, you eat them on a stick, and then because you have the little floating baka, you suck it right up. Now, a couple variations. You can put a little tequila on top of this marinade when you did the chili and the lime and the garlic. Sure, why not? That would be great. You can certainly do it that way and float a little vodka and have a little bit more of a party. All right, so that's fun to do. All right, we'll leave this here. This is almost done. These peaches are looking good. They're just about done. We don't want to cook them long. We just want to get them... the bigger ones I want to get a little bit longer, but these small ones I'm just going to put them here. They'll get nice and hot, and they'll work out really well. All right, so while we're waiting for that, we're going to come over to our corn, and we'll just grill these corns a little bit, and then we're going to put them okay. So we'll leave our corn here. We'll take these 2 peaches because they're kind of big, right? And we'll just cut them a little smaller. Put this aside for 1 second. All right, so we have a lot of things happening right here, right? We got our chicken marinated, we have our beef marinating, we have our barramundi coming off with our nice little fun cocktail, right? We have our corn cooking here. We have a lot of little things going on. This one is nice and done. We're going to stick them right in here. This one's a little bit underdone on the edge here, so we'll see if we can get a little bit cook on that one. This is great that way. Okay. And turn this off on the side, and this will be done in a minute. Now, the corn's going to come out relatively quick. So we're going to get ready on the corn, right? We got some butter, some coriander, some chili powder, and some lime. Now, slightly different. I'm doing something a little different in the sense that I'm going to put a little bit of coriander on it, and I'm going to put a little butter. You typically don't put the butter on top, but I like the butter because it kind of sticks to it a little bit. It makes the cheese and everything stick a little bit better. So we're going to let this corn go a little bit longer. Okay, trying to get some little bit of color to it. All right, this fish is ready. So there we got a beautiful couple of nice pieces of stuff like that. I love it, huh? So this for some garnish and to make it a little more festive. We'll put a couple of yellow tomatoes. Kind of fun. We'll put some nice big pieces of cilantro inside here. And there we have our nice Barramundi Gazpacho Bloody Mary cocktail. It's kind of a long one to say, so bear with me on that one. All right, so we got that one going there. That's great. We got our corn going here. All right, get this nice and hot. And then we're going to get our chicken and our beef going. All right. So a couple of these are good here. grill them as long as you want to grill them. So you want to get a little richness to it. You want to get kind of a little deeper, a little higher temperature on this one. But because they've already been pre-cooked, they're gonna be a little softer inside, and the color maybe not as deep. But that's okay because I want them to kind of eat a little bit smoother and softer. So I got them grilled up a little bit. Okay, get a little bit more on this grill here. It's nice and hot. Now, this is the important part. So we're going to rub this guy with a little butter. We're going to hit some lime. We'll put some cojita cheese on top, which is a nice Mexican, kind of like almost like their version of grana padano. Okay, a little softer but nice and salty. Okay, so we put a little bit of the coriander because I like that extra flavor that adds to it, and then some chili powder. Now, next thing I'm going to put my next layer. So notice I'm doing 2 different layers. So that way everyone gets seasoned. We're not going to discriminate. Everyone's going to be nice and seasoned up really good. Oh, forgot our butter first. So we're going to put our butter, right? We're going to put our lime, trying to get my ratio, my rhythm down there. There we go. All right, we put our spices. And this is our Mexican street corn. So if you're grilling it outside, probably a little deeper in its flavor profile. Okay. So we're going to put a little bit of light green onion because I like the color of it. Kind of brightens it up a little bit, turns it a color. And then you can put a little bit of nice big pieces of cilantro. Don't chop it too small, just nice big ones. All right, so there's your Mexican street corn, right? You have your nice, that goes really well with anything really, but particularly with the beef that we're gonna be working with. So I think you'll enjoy that. All right, so like I said, the butter's important because I think it kind of coats it. And you don't need a lot, just enough to kind of rub it. It makes it stick a little bit better. That's the whole point of it. All right, so as we start to clean up a little bit, let's start to get our stuff on the grill here, all right? You can hear that nice and deep, nice and deep. So I used to work with a chef that used to say, I can hear that, don't touch it. I can smell it right now, it smells great. All right, so this is our chicken that we marinated. Let's pretend we marinated it a little bit longer, right? And then you're gonna cook this on the grill. Now, you want to be careful we'll cook this on too high of a grill because you don't want it to burn the skin. You want to get it, kind of cook it nice and slow and evenly. So I would say a medium grill for the chicken, a higher temperature for the beef. The beef is on the thin side. So I cut it. Remember we talked about we butterflied it? So when you butterfly it, in order to get that deepness to it, you got to have a high temperature. If it was thick and you had a medium temperature, eventually you get that deep color on the outside, but the inside will be perfectly cooked. In this case, I want to get it as high as I can. All right, so we have some chicken here. We have our beef working. All right, so those are the 2 things. All right, we're going to let that guy go, and we're going to come back to you guys and show you what's happening in a few minutes. All right, so now we're looking at the chicken and the steak, and it's ready to be turned over. I can smell that. So we're going to turn over the steak. You have some good color deep here, right? You can see that nice lines here. And we're going to turn over the chicken. Okay, look at that one. That's beautiful. Smells awesome. I love the Hill Harvest recipe because he puts a little pineapple in it, and it's really such a great flavor to it. It's got a really, really great recipe. So really excited about the flavors we're working with here. We got a lot of assertive flavors, right? We have the jerk seasoning. We have the green chimichurri, okay? Matter of fact, the vinegar is a little strong. That's actually irritated my nose in a good way. I could smell it. It's awesome. It's really great. A lot of great flavors here that we have going on today. Perfect for for the summertime, for your backyard barbecue, your backyard grilling, your summer sides, all these different things. So that's great. So we're gonna take a look at this in a second, and we'll see how it's cooking. So how long does it take to cook? You know, I think people ask that question all the time. Well, how long on each side? Well, there's so many things that you have to keep consideration when you're starting to cook with steak and chicken, right? How hot is your grill? How thick is your steak? How thick is your chicken? Does it have a bone? Does it not have a bone? In the steak scenario, or pork even, what's the temperature? You know, so you want to kind of make sure you're looking at it and understanding the whole package of it. Okay, so this is going really good, smelling great. We're gonna let the beef cook a little bit longer. Now, don't forget, we can have the beef a little bit underdone, right? We can have it medium rare, so that's fine. That's what we'll do here today. And then the chicken, obviously, we're gonna have it well done here. But if you can use any of these recipes, both the jerk or the green chimichurri on pork chops, on chicken, you could interchange them any way you want. So I really highly recommend that you look at a Hill Harvest website. He's got a spicy and non-spicy. He's got some great hot sauces here. He's a friend of ours. He does a great job. And then we got our steak over here. So the thing about the steak is that you want to let it rest. Now let's talk about what kind of steak you can get. You can get hanger steak. I got flank steak here. The lines are in this direction. And I cooked it that way for you to see. That's the lines. But we're going to cut it this way to break it. So the lines are going this way. You can make the X if you like, but you definitely want to make sure that you are slicing against the grain. Hanger steak, terrace major, if you can find it, it's a great cut. It's the second most tender piece of meat on the animal, where if you get tenderloin, it's bigger. Terrace major is a little leaner too, which is nice, a little healthier. Things that kind of really work well. A ribeye steak would always go great. A sirloin steak will always go great. So keep that in mind. But this eats really well. We made these recently. And we made carne asada, same concept. We made it on a taco. I used the same cut. I actually used a similar, I used my dry recipe for the chimichurri as that. Okay? So this guy is getting nice. I could see that he's almost there for the steak. The chicken's gonna need a little bit more time. We'll come back to the chicken. Now, when you're working with this grill inside the house, you don't want to cover it. Okay, I got a little richness going. I got a lot of things happening right now. It's a little more smoke, but it's usually a smokeless grill. It doesn't give off too much smoke to it. So I think the steak looks like it's gonna be done here, huh? All right, we're gonna put the steak right here. We're gonna let him rest, okay? And we're gonna see if this chicken can get a little bit more color going. Let that chicken go for a little bit. It's almost done, actually, believe it or not. Now, I use thighs. Why do I use thighs? Because thighs are a little more authentic, right? You can use breast, but thighs are a little more authentic in terms of richness and the flavor, all right? So we got the steak here. Now, a couple things we're going to do. We have a couple different things we're going to play with. We have some plantain chips, a little salty. They will go either for the chicken or for the steak, either or. Doesn't really matter which one you prefer. So I'm going to put the peaches, or if you have grilled nectarines, I want to put that on the steak. I want to put the plantain chips on the chicken. So I'm just going to sprinkle these on top. And it's just going to look great, and it's going to eat really well. You're going to have that assertiveness from the chimichurri marinade, and then you're going to have the sweetness from the peaches and nectarines. Notice they're a little firm, which I mentioned to you is a good thing because we're going to cook them. We don't want them to be mush. Okay? I'm going to let this rest for a couple of minutes. What happens when you let steak rest, or any meat really, it reabsorbs the juices, and you don't want it to run out and bleed. All right, so this chicken here is smelling great, really rich. There's a little spice to it, so it's spicing up the studio here, which is great. All right. It's definitely not done yet. I want to make sure that skin goes. Now, I'm turning it over a little bit. For you chefs out there, you dads and men that are grilling at home, you don't need to turn 100 times. Cooking's not, I'm going to cook it and turn it and stuff like that. Let it cook. Leave it alone. Just let it cook nice. Don't touch it. Leave them alone. Okay? All right, so we have our beef here. We're going to let it rest a little bit longer. And what I do want to do is kind of talk a little bit more about the rest of our meal that we have going on here. right? So if we go back to what we started with the broccoli salad and the feta and the almonds on top. Really great, nice light salad. And then you have your potato salad, which is a mesquite dressing, mesquite smoky ranch dressing on top of these potatoes. If you use the tricolor potatoes, it work out really well. Okay, and then you have the baked bean salad. Again, we talked about the baked bean, but instead of baking it, we made it into a nice fresh salad, vinegary and really nice and flavorful. And then we come into these fun little cocktail that we have the Bloody Mary Gazpacho with these Barramundi, chili limes Barramundi on top. Really fun to eat and fun to drink. Certainly put your tequila on top of your Barramundi and put your vodka inside your Bloody Mary mix, and you can have a nice Sunday brunch with that and have a good time. We have our Mexican street corn. I would like to have grilled it a little bit longer, but it didn't grill as much as I wanted to, but that's okay. It still tastes delicious either way. Secret to this one is put a little butter on it, lime, so the butter makes everything stick, and then the cojita cheese, right? And then we just garnished it with a little bit of cilantro and a little bit of green onion. Now we have our chimichurri marinated flank steak, okay? Letting it rest a little bit. You can see it's starting to juice out a little bit. We're gonna let that rest and let it reabsorb. And we're gonna top that with a little bit of the peaches. I like the peaches with this one, okay? And then we finally have our chicken that we're working with our friends at the Hillside Harvest with the Jamaican Jerk Spice, okay? We're using the spicy one right now. It's always good to have a little spicy, so it's a little strong, but it's really great. So that's the one we're using right here. We have a mild one as well, and they got a bunch of great hot sauces, so I really recommend you guys check them out. The tomato one's really great. The pineapple one's very fantastic. I use them all the time. All right, so our chicken's going here, okay? I want to let the skin get a little bit crispier, okay? And we want that richness to it, right? We want that sear, that deep color, that caramelization. Now, what's going to caramelize in here? We talked about it. It's the sugar and the pineapple and the marinade, right? And the sugar and the natural and the blood and the protein. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. You get that richness. You know, when you eat a steak and you eat something that has that little char at the end, it always tends to be richer and deeper. That's because of that, okay? So, we'll let this guy go a little bit longer. I think we're going to cut this. He's going to bleed a little bit, but it's okay. We're gonna get antsy. I want to start eating them. So we're gonna take our steak here, separate these guys here. We're gonna slice them on a nice angle here. You have a nice pinkness to it. Perfect. Remember, you're slicing against the grain. It's important that you slice against the grain so you break those fibers. Notice I'm on a little bit of an angle. Okay, we call that as a bias cut. So we put this beautiful little pieces of steak here, right? This would be great on a taco, which is what we did on Father's Day. We put these on a taco, okay, with little fresh refried beans. Okay, this didn't take long. You notice that? We cooked this all together. The chicken's taking long, obviously, because you got to make it well done, right? You got to make it 160 inside. Let it sit, and it gets to 165. So we have our nice pieces of steak here. Flavor is going to be great on this one. Beautiful. Look at that. So all this flavor is great. All right, so now we put these nice little peaches on top. They're grilled, right? And our chicken's just about done. I can feel it. I know it's just about done. And then, just because we got some nice color, put some big pieces of parsley on top. You don't have to even chop it or nothing. Got this great festive plate, and there's our chimichurri flank steak. All right, so our chicken's almost ready. I'm going to take that off. Now this has to rest as well. So when I mean rest, how long do you let it rest for? 10, 15 minutes is more than enough time. You don't need to do much more than that. Okay, if you're a bigger roast, you're probably going to look for 20, 30 minutes. Think about a turkey, right? Turkey. 45 minutes later, it's still hot, right? Because of big turkey. All right, so I got a nice deep color here. So how will this work with chicken breast? Fantastic. How will it work with skinless chicken? Fantastic as well. How will it work with wings? Absolutely, right? So feel this guy, the skin's a little bit, see the inside here, is nice and firm. No pink coming out. Skin's soft, but that's the nature of the skin, right? So we have this. We have the chicken here. We're going to take this guy off, and because he's noisy. Okay, so let's move this out of the way. Now this one, we're going to put a little bit of a crunch on top with these plantain chips. All right, so now we have our steak there. That looks fun, doesn't it? Doesn't that look great? Those are great. Perfect. Simple. All right. So I normally, like I said, I want this to rest a little bit, but for the sake of what we're doing here, these nice pieces here, perfectly cooked, beautiful. Look at that. Now the thing about when you work with thighs, sometimes they're a little darker and richer on the edges there, so be careful with that. You may think they're underdone. Okay. So nice. Now I'm cutting these pieces like this. I think this one may be a little bit off. Put them on a little bit more. Now I'm cutting them into pieces like this because now you're going to share them, right? You're going to share it with everybody. Now if this was resting for a little bit, any carryover cooking would finish the cooking of it nice and moist and flavorful. Okay. And again, the same idea. We kind of scatter them around a little bit. Nice and hot. Perfect chicken here. And then we put these little crunchy stuff on top. And we'll just put these little pieces of chives. And that's it. And there's your jerk chicken from our friends at Hillside Harvest. Our chimichurri beef, our Mexican street corn, the barramundi, chili lime barramundi with Bloody Mary gazpacho. It's a tongue twister on that one, excuse me. Baked bean salad, smoked potato salad, and a broccoli, almond, and feta salad. That's a tongue twister on that one. But there you go. There's your summer grilling sides and tips that I think you really enjoy doing. Very simple, clean, pretty, festive. You could take any of these items and change them up a little bit, and I think you'll have a really fun time eating and enjoying this food. So please let us know what you think, and give us some comments, and we'll see you real soon.